Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of MyES TV's How-To series with me, Anthony, from the UK. In this video, I am going to be teaching you essentially how to give a presentation or a speech in English. I can feel your blood pressure increasing through the camera because yes, giving a speech or a presentation is quite intimidating, even when it's in your own language, but especially when it's in another language. So, in this video, we'll be looking at the structure of classical speech, and then I'll be giving you some vocabulary and some expressions that you could use to seem just a little bit more like a native speaker. Now, of course, the structure of your speech depends on the content and also depends on your audience. If you're just giving a small presentation to a few colleagues, the formality is very low, you won't need quite a lot of this language, and you probably won't need the structure. But if it's a larger speech or a larger presentation to quite a lot of people, you will probably need some structure to fall back on, to rely on. So, as you can see on the screen, the classic structure of a presentation or a speech is we begin with the introduction. What do you do in the introduction? Well, you explain what exactly you will be talking about. What is the goal of your speech? What are you investigating? What are you analysing? Why are we here? Okay? You say that in the introduction. Then you proceed with point 1 and point 2. And point 3, point 4, point 5, it depends on what you're talking about. Okay. Then you summarize just what you've said with your own interpretation in the conclusion. And then right at the end, in my opinion, you put questions, because if you have questions and you allow questions in the middle of your speech, you will become distracted and it's very easy to lose control of the room, of your mental structure for the speech. It's better just to allow 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions. That brings us to the first word, which it's quite important to know, and this is handouts. Now, it comes from the phrasal verb to hand out something, meaning to give. And a handout essentially is a copy of the presentation or speech. So for example, if you're doing something on PowerPoint and you have a series of slides, a handout will be a copy of those slides. Now, I would give this at the end for the same reasons as the questions, that people will be distracted and always reading a little piece of paper when they should be listening to you. So give a copy of the handout at the end. We begin with the introduction, which is where, like I say, you explain what you're talking about. So an example would be something like, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or if it's an informal thing, then just hi guys. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Today I am going to be talking about and we'll be looking at this in detail, and if you have any questions regarding anything I say, please leave it until the end. There will be 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the presentation. Now we go straight into sequencing phrases. Now these are a set of expressions, typically adverbs, that you can use like salt and pepper in your speech. It helps to form a chronology of your speech. It helps you to put things into order. So an example of a sequencing phrase several examples are firstly, first of all, secondly, second of all, next, which is very informal. I would use that sort of with colleagues only, not in a formal situation. Furthermore or moreover, very, very formal, very sophisticated. And then after that, consequently, etc. Good. So next then, we come to highlighting information, because if you are explaining something in detail with some data or statistics, you may need to put their attention onto something specific. So you can do this by saying, as you can see from the data, blah, 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 blah. So for example, as you can see from this data here, our revenue has increased in the past 12 months and our staff shortage has decreased. or as is demonstrated by the data is another way of saying this, etc. This brings us to comparing and contrasting. This is essentially when you're taking two elements and you're either discussing similarities or what makes them different. The classic expression is on the one hand, on the other hand. On the one hand, I like pizza. On the other hand, I need to lose weight. Maybe not an example for a presentation, but you understand. Some other examples of contrasting expressions are things like the more, the less. So for example, the more our staff shortages increase, the less our revenue. Something like that. To conclude, you have several expressions you can say. For example, to sum up, or in conclusion, or to conclude. Let's wrap this up by plus the ing form, because by is a preposition, and if you have a verb after preposition, ing form. So let's wrap up by taking a look at the data again, for example. And then you would leave with the questions. You could say something like, so that is the presentation finished. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Okay. If you have given a presentation or a speech before, let us know in the comments. Tell us about it. Or if you have an expression that you've used in the past that you think could be quite useful, put that in there too. Like and subscribe this video for more content like this. Enable the bell icon so that you can get instant notifications of when we upload. My name is Anthony, and that was MyES TV. Bye guys.